Good evening. I'm going to go over some of the economic and tourism trends that we can expect to see as we look to the future. So looking at the economy, the International Monetary Fund is forecasting continued growth in 3.9% in 2018. So that short term does look solid through to 2020. We look at the US tax reform. That's going to have a reduction in US taxes for corporations, all expected to be positive for the economy. As we look to the mid and long term, there's more downside risk, as we all know. Rising interest rates, we look at trade policies, we're hearing a lot about NAFTA and Brexit, and of course the steel industry, a lot of uncertainty there. Look at those geopolitical tensions in the Eastern Asia and Middle East and Korea. Some of those extreme weather developments certainly wreaking havoc in certain places. That aging population, then, and of course, the outlook on commodity prices that would put pressure on lower income countries that are dependent on commodities. So definitely some uncertainty there, and our neighbors to the south. And we look at how does the impact of the economy and world events, what does that translate to in Whistler's room night growth over the past 25 years? As you can see from this graph, we've got great growth, double-digit growth in the late 90s. Then we hit 9/11, and the economy in the US started to soften in 2002, and we took our first major downturn. That was followed by some recovery, but it was hampered a bit by equity of the US dollar and the Canadian dollar, as well as the introduction of a passport requirement for our US visitors. This was then followed by, as we know, the global financial crisis in 2008. We had a small bump with the Olympics in 2010, gave us some increased business. And it wasn't until 2012 that we've seen some consistent growth as the markets recovered and the stronger US dollar. So we see those peaks and valleys of the impact of the world on our room nights in production in our resort. If we look to the tourism growth outlook, in the next 10 years, the total contribution of the travel and tourism to the gross domestic product is going to grow from $7.6 trillion in 2017 to $11.5 trillion in 2027. So some tremendous growth. Tourism is expected to grab a larger share of the whole economy, rising from 10% to 11.4%, and a larger percentage of jobs directly related to tourism from 3.6% to 4%. So a lot of growth in tourism. And while some destinations are challenged with this over-tourism concept, places like Venice and Barcelona, Whistler's done a very good job of being proactive with our community planning when you look at village development, hotel capacity, the bed cap, as well as our tourism planning, looking at tourism, where Tourism Whistler focuses on attracting the right volumes of guests at the right times of years, and more recently, more of our focus on driving that shoulder season period and midweek. Some of those global trends that we can touch on, the global population is aging. More than 12% are going to be over 60, and they have more disposable income. That tech-savvy millennial is expected to be 50% of travelers by 2025. There's a growth in middle class, especially out of China and India, where travel has become an essential part of life. Health and healthy lifestyle are becoming more a desired tourism offering that people want to have. Emerging destinations, you see some emerging and developing regions that are developing and exploiting what their tourism potential is to attract and retain visitors. Obviously, political issues and terrorism certainly have an impact when you think about visitor safety. Look at Paris for an example. Digital channels and social media, everyone has a cell phone, as we know, so our tourist is able to explore, plan, and make decisions whenever and wherever they want, and are posting on social media. And then finally, on sustainability, we know that there's some negative impacts of tourism on societies and the environment, but we're looking at the tourism model having a shift as we move forward as being essential. If we look at Canada's new tourism vision, it's a multi-year plan that the government has launched in 2017 to grow international visitors by 30% in 2021 At that same time, we'll see Chinese visitation double, and the goal is to position Canada in one of the top 10 destination rankings by 2025. This plan is through marketing, through access, increasing access to Canada, making it easier to get here, and then those authentic experiences that people will want. And this will be done through Destination Canada, our national tourism organization. They have an increased budget to do this. To put that in context, in 2012, they had a $58 million budget, and now it's over $90 million. So we've seen some good increase there. And then we look at the provincial level. They're obviously looking, BC is looking to capitalize on the opportunities for tourism growth. Destination BC is working with DMOs and partners to create a marketing network to share ideas, tools that align message, cooperative opportunities. And as we see tourism growth, you're going to see more and more remote destinations create tourism product. So to the north, on the island, it'll create this diversified offering, which is great for BC. It creates a more robust, compelling message for people to come here. But at the same time, it will create visitor dispersion. People will want to go more places and hence spend less time in each place. So we need to partner with other destinations, create those compelling experiences and reasons to come, but at the same time, make sure that this isn't cannibalizing our volumes that we have, and that we make sure we're attracting, we figure out who the guest we want, how do we attract them and get them to stay with us for the longest amount of time. So in doing that, we have an exercise called Place DNA that Tourism Whistler will be undertaking, and this will be building upon the comprehensive work of the RMOW in undertaking the OCP and looking at infrastructure and amenities that are important to our community. But at the same time, Tourism Whistler is going to roll out this complementary process of the Place DNA, which is our growth strategy for tourism. So we're going to be doing surveys and discussion groups with residents, businesses, and our visitors to get alignment. How do they perceive? How do you perceive Whistler? Determine the essence of Whistler. What's our heart, spirit, and soul as defined by our history, people, culture, geography, climate, economy, all those good things. And that will, help us collectively decide what's unique and authentic about Whistler, ensure we're attracting like-minded visitors who love, appreciate, and respect Whistler's natural environment and want to try to then balance out the volumes month by month and ensure that we're smoothing the visitation for a year-round process. So we will be launching that DNA process shortly, and so stay tuned for more. Thanks.